Let's start off with Celeste. I mean, we gotta start off with Celeste, of course. So maximize this window here. There we go. Okay.
Mhm.
So when Kevin came clean to her, she said that she would have seen him for who he was if he had just come clean in the first place because she cared about him. Even after hearing her side of things, do you think Kevin still believes that she would have accepted him, or does he still believe that she hated cops so much that it wouldn't have mattered?
I honestly think that as Atwater has processed the conversation, he believes it. I think he knows where he made his mistake. I think he made his mistake from living from a place of fear and doubt, right? He was living from a place that he wanted to be and not from a place that he actually was in. He wanted to be in this place where he didn't have to defend a badge or his brotherhood or his blackness, but he could just be. And I think he got a little fluid, right? And how comfortable that felt. Um, and it made sense in that moment, obviously, because we all saw the tragedy in the episode of Burnside. And I think we give Atwater that break, especially then, because it was so much at the same time. But, over time, I think you do develop the love skills that it takes to be transparent with somebody that you care about. And I think Atwater lost sight of that. And he's not unaware. And I think he'll do his best next time.
I know a lot of fans were glad when Celeste showed up just because like Kevin was finally getting a love interest who wasn't a criminal. But I'm curious though, like all of the hype for Kevin finally having like the real relationship that we've always wanted for him aside, do you think that like Celeste is the right person for Kevin?
I think they were still feeling each other out, right? I think Atwater was surprised at what he discovered in Celeste, and I think Celeste was surprised as well. I think they both caught each other at very interesting moments in life, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And they learned a lot and thoroughly enjoyed it. I think they needed each other for that moment. Like I said, I think Atwater should take the accountability for not being the most honest, for not being for living from that place of want and desire, and not like understanding exactly where it is and finding a way to communicate that. I think she was capable. I believe that she was very capable of being able to receive him anyway because of the good times they were having. I think he did show her a part of himself that was real. What's unfortunate is that he didn't play those cards in a way that puts her in the best position to trust him, and that makes sense. And it also makes sense exactly why he didn't want to, kind of for her protection and safety. I think they could have grown into that eventually. I think it got to a point, especially after Burgess kind of pressures you to, keep it 100. It's hard for you to continue to live a lie. So, the timing was very unfortunate. But yeah, I think they were right. I think they were right enough for each other, at that time. Mm-hmm. Who's to say where they are now? Right. But at that time, I think they did a great job.
Yeah. And you probably don't know if she's coming back or not, but if she ever did, do you think she'd be able to forgive Kevin?
I do. I think Kevin got some tricks up his sleeve. I think Kevin, I think Kevin, if he listens to enough Keith Sweat, can put himself in a position to beg in the right direction, and I think she's capable of coming back. And we might not see her this season. Maybe we see her next season. But either way, I think hopefully by then Kevin would have developed and grown a little bit more. And they'll be ready for that conversation. I think right now they just need that time. That can happen sometimes. Sometimes with that person that you care about so much, it's like, if when something happens and the funk hits the fan in an uncomfortable way, sometimes the best thing for those two people is time and space, in order for them to really grow into what those feelings mean. Because I think her feelings were hurt. Obviously his were too. So, sometimes those feelings, if we respond with those right away, doesn't leave us in the most optimal position. Sometimes we need time and space to allow the spirit to filter those feelings so that we can communicate in a way that we get what we want.
Yeah. And so back when Kevin met Celeste, he told Ruzek that like it felt good to be the guy that she just met at the bar and not the black cop. Like he didn't have to defend the badge and have to prove his blackness. And so something I know Gina and I talked a lot about, like both when that particular episode aired and then like since then, is how much Kevin has mentioned doing things away from the badge. So I'm just curious, like, where is Kevin's head at these days regarding his feelings towards the badge, especially after how everything went down with Celeste?
Yeah, I think I think they're fragile. I think they're fragile, but still strong. I think he's standing on the opportunity that he knows he has to make the biggest difference. I think right now he still feels like being the cop is the best way to make the biggest difference. And until he discovers another one, I think that's where he's going to live. Right now he understands that to be the assignment, and he's still very willing to make some sacrifices. He's willing to turn the other cheek every now and then, in order to preserve what he has, the opportunity he still has to serve and protect at a high level. Mind you, who's to say how long he'll still be in this space? Who's to say, how many situations it'll take as he watches the cops around him and in his personal unit, be affected by the badge. You can grow into something that you're not, or something that you didn't want to be. Sometimes in these careers. And so you got to be careful, so I think he's going to protect his peace more than anything. And as long as he can protect and serve at this capacity, he'll be there. And if he finds a better way to do it, he'll be the first one to let him know.
Interesting. So our listeners, of course, were thrilled when we said we were going to chat with you, and they came through with a couple questions. So one of our listeners wanted to know, what do you see as the show's responsibility for the stories that it tells?
I think we truly just have a responsibility to authenticity. I think we have a responsibility to empathy. As storytellers, as we empathize for the people we're telling stories for, we have to remind ourselves sometimes, we know it's called Chicago PD. And Chicago is first and PD is second for a reason. I think in that order, if we prioritize Chicago, and that comes with the stories, that comes with the authenticity of the city, that comes with the textures that the cities provide, and then PD. Naturally, we know that these are from the perspectives of these first responders that for so many are heroes that have saved so many lives. And right now, with the microscope being on first responders so heavily, I think our responsibility is to identify the empathy more than anything, right? How do we empathize not only for the people who we're solving the cases for, but for the people who are solving the cases, so that, we have a broadened understanding of both ends of the story, and so there's a dual empathy almost as an actor as you approach it, because I know that my job is almost to make Atwater look good, but sometimes the best way to make somebody look good is to show their imperfections, right? Is to show where they're capable of growing from. That's something that Jason Begay told me in a dope way. I remember we were both talking about our sons, having like a fatherhood conversation, and naturally our sons grew up loving Spider-Man. And my son is a lot younger than his, but he told me something about Spider-Man. What makes him dope is we watch him be courageous in a way that really creates the hero. You know what I'm saying? So you can't be a hero as much as you can become a hero. And you become a hero through the struggles, through being scared at first, but you can only call it courage if there is fear initially. You know what I'm saying? And so we do our best to try to show all of those angles, right? The things that we're scared of, the demons that follow us, how we give advice to the people who we love in these situations. You know, I love how we're watching Atwater now, even in these interrogation rooms, right? He's fighting for the outcome that he wants to see and not just allowing the system to make that choice for everybody, you know? There's a way that you can fight against the weight, if that makes sense. And Atwater's still very much in that fight, but everybody in the unit is, you know? He can only pick up from what everybody else is putting down. And so that's why I think it's special about the intelligence unit, because it's a collective of people that really care, that care so much. You know what I'm saying? Like, you couldn't have a better group of people either trying to save your life or tell your story, in my humble opinion, based upon how much I know everybody cares on and off set.
So kind of going off of that, I know a lot of the first half of the season focused on like the Roy, Haley, Voight storyline and like Voight's actions and whether or not like they're ever justifiable and like all that stuff. And I'm curious, like something that we talk a lot about, but I feel like it's talked a lot about, especially this season, is like, where do the rest of the members of intelligence fall on like Voight's methods of doing things, especially after like 9 seasons now? And like, we've always kind of said that it seemed to be like Jay, Kevin, and Burgess on like one side, and then Voight, Haley, Ruzick on the other. But we also talked about how it felt like that changed a little bit this season. So I'm just curious, kind of going off of that conversation, like, where do you feel like Kevin honestly falls, like when it comes to Voight's methods? Like, do you think Kevin thinks that like Voight's good for Chicago, so it doesn't really matter as much how things happen or how they get there because like the ends justify the means?
Yeah, this is a great question, and I've had time with this. And I want to unpack it for you without giving away too much. But, you know, everybody has to, you know, and I can only speak for myself, right?
Right.
And you have to find what motivates you about a person, right? You have to find like, what is it? I'm pretty sure the same way you all do as co-stars, right? Or co-hosts on this show is like, you inspire each other. It's something about the other that admires you enough to want to pop up and work with each other at this capacity, right? And so, we have to identify those things as well, specifically. And one of the things that Atwater is playing with, I think Voight reminds him of the father figure in his life that is capable of doing bad things for good reasons. I think Atwater understands that that conundrum very well. And that's what's interesting about being a cop, is you find yourself in those positions a lot. And your character and you know, the way that you have to look at yourself in the mirror at night, you know, is what determines your decisions. And so, you know, even if I didn't 100% agree with everything that Voight did or that he does or how he does it, I know I'm watching a man that's doing his best to look at himself in the mirror and go to sleep at night. You know, and that's really all we can ask for, is for somebody to be that honest with themselves about what they can live with. And, you know, there are things that obviously Atwater can live with that a Voight can't, and vice versa. I think they've had that conversation before. You know, they've had that conversation before. And you have to, when you're on a unit like this, you got to communicate those types of things. So you know how far the person that you're next to is willing to go when you're on that battlefield, because it's real, you know? So, I think Voight and Atwater are in a great pocket. And as long as Atwater can see that kind of integrity out of that man, he'll be down. He'll be down. And whether he's in his unit or not, I think he'll always have respect for him, because it starts with respect. And that's what I love about this cast and the team. You know, we all really have so much respect for each other that, you know, it makes it easy to go to battle, no matter how hard the battle is.
Yeah. So this week's episode, I mean, it's a big one for Tracy, but that aside, it opens with an Upton and Out Water scene, which is a pairing we don't see very often. We were thrilled to see it.
Water in the building. Up water in the building. We gotta start hashtagging that. Hashtag up water, baby.
So what is it like getting to film those? And do you hope we get to see more of that pairing in the future?
So unashamedly, Tracy's kind of my favorite. And I say that, you know, and I don't have a hard time being honest about my favorites. I got a younger little sister who lives in France. Everybody in the family knows she's my favorite. You know what I mean? It's like, so don't be surprised. And to have those types of scenes with Tracy, who has been such a light, right, and lifted us up ever since she's been a part of the cast. Man, I know it's rare, right? Because Offset, we spend a lot of time, you know, in like dope brotherly, sisterly kind of textures, right? Like she's always kind of trying to beat me up or hang off my arms, or we like pranking each other, or you know what I'm saying? But we're also like the first person to like, you know, do favors, whether you want coffee or water, or like, you know, like, you know, it's I feel for her like a sister. And I think she feels like I'm a brother. And so having those scenes are always fun because you get to try to infuse that energy into the story. And hopefully, I haven't seen those scenes, but I have heard great things about those scenes, right? And I think that's a dope way to kick off the episode because I knew how dark the episode was going to get. So I really appreciated the privilege of being able to kick it off and set a tone that would allow it to have the balance that it needed in order for us to really tell the story effectively. That's, you know, overall, this is an episode that we worked extremely hard on, especially Tracy, with the big stunt that I had a chance to really do some behind the scenes action with the big stunt with the car that comes off the bridge into the river. Tracy goes in there, saves people, a person. I don't want to get too much away, but what happens is, you know, that story is able to be told because of the intention me and Tracy had at the top. We were like, we really want to infuse this with our friendship, right? And with that energy. And hopefully we see that.
And I know, speaking of things that we hope to see more of, like by far the most popular fan question we got for you was, when are we going to get more Burgwater scenes? And I know you obviously can't give like too much away, but like, given that Kim is getting ready to go through this like big custody battle, like, do we see her lean on Kevin? Like, will we kind of get some more of that?
Yeah, you're going to definitely see that. You know, and I think, and I can't wait for the scene. Like I said, I haven't seen it. We just like a factory, right? We just do stuff. But I do connect to those moments. And I can't wait for y'all to see it. Yeah, you're definitely going to see it. We got some more Burgwater on the way. And it's real Burgwater too. Like, you got to understand, you know, Burgwater are their parents a little bit, you know? And in real life, me and Marina are parents. We're like the only parents in the cast outside of Jason, who has a beautiful family. But, you know, we're starting our families, and we started them like around the same time. I mean, believe it or not, was born like a week after Roman was born, you know. They kind of just started hanging out. So it's dope to watch like little Burgwater, you know, the energy is so dope because it's so much like Burgess and Roman's so much like me. And to watch the younger versions of them hang out is honestly a treat. But yeah, we have that to look forward to. You know, we've grown as people and as artists and as friends throughout this process over all these years. So to get the opportunity to continue to infuse our life into our art together, we thoroughly enjoy that. And we appreciate the fact that the fans do too. So I can't wait for y'all to see those moments, because they're like parental moments, like the moments Burgwater used to have back in the day, as we used to watch them like on the beat, and they were kind of goofy and they made mistakes, and it's like, you know, but it was cool, right? But now the stakes are a lot higher and everything feels a little bit more intense, but they're still there for each other. And that's what's dope.
Love it. I think we're out of time based on messages we're seeing, but LaRoyce, it's always fun to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you, LaRoyce.
Yeah, this was a pleasure.
Thank y'all. And y'all keep grooving, man. Y'all doing a great job. Appreciate y'all, ladies. Definitely love the energy on the interviews.
Thank you.
Thank you.